Okay, everybody, how you guys doing? My name is Mark. This is Why I Hate the World. My peoples, where you at? A very short video today because we're going to be talking about the big news. If you haven't heard, Joe Biden has dropped out. So what does that mean exactly? That means that he is not going to be seeking re-election. That is to say, he's dropped out of the presidential race for re-election amid pressure from the Democratic base. This is kind of the first time in my lifetime, I think, that I can remember this kind of thing ever actually happening. It's actually kind of crazy. I mean, I think this happened in like 1968 or something like that, which is way before I was born. So yeah, first time in my lifetime where I've seen this sort of pressure actually like be reciprocated from a political candidate and them dropping out due to the wishes of the constituents and the party. Now, this of course stems from Joe Biden's pretty bad performance during the debates about 3 weeks ago. And that, and also the fact that he's kind of been behind Donald Trump in the polls for the last 10 months. And more so even than that, he's been behind him in every single one of the swing states. And that's kind of what really matters, since we use this horribly ridiculous and outdated electoral college system, where someone who gets the least amount of votes actually can win the presidency. It kind of doesn't matter what everyone in the country, how they vote. It only really matters how people in a certain number of swing states vote, which is baloney, in my opinion. I still can't understand why we stuck with that and why that's legal. In real life, I know why we stuck with it. It's because that's the only way that Republicans can win. And so they're the ones keeping the Electoral College alive, but that's a discussion for a different time. Anyway, he was behind in Michigan by 7 points alone in Michigan, which tells you how dire the straits were for Joe Biden. And I think there's been a lot of pressure on him since the debate. The whole point with the debate was that it was supposed to turn this around for him, right? He was down in the polls, and the debate with Trump was supposed to demonstrate to the American people that, hey, I'm still alive, I'm still good, I can still handle this. And it kind of completely backfired. And you haven't been hearing a lot from Donald Trump in the last 3 weeks or so. He's just been sort of kicking back, letting Biden cook as Biden's poll numbers get worse and worse. Which, admittedly, if you look at it, they started to tighten up a little bit, but he's still down by, I think 2 points national and down by a lot in the swing states. So it's yeah. And it looks like the Democratic establishment has finally just managed to pressure him out. And, I mean, to be fair, the man is 81 years old. It's only logical that he would want to drop out anyway. I think I remember reading an interview somewhere where Biden said, yeah, if it wasn't Trump running, I wouldn't seek re-election. And the reason why he actually sought re-election was because he beat Donald Trump before, and he felt that it was his duty to beat Donald Trump again in order to, protect democracy and all that, which is admirable and everything. But, I mean, the man's 81. You've seen the cognitive decline, unfortunately. Whether you're a Joe Biden fan or not, that's just the truth. The truth is, he's old. You get old, your brain gets a little squirrely, and you're just not as fast on your feet as you used to be. And unfortunately, we don't live in a society that judges people by their merits. We live in a society that judges people by the way they look and by emotions and feelings, because really, Joe Biden is not a halfway bad president. I mean, if we were going by his record or whatever, because he actually is a pretty good president, at least in my opinion. For a little while there, his first 2 years, he held a consistent lead over Donald Trump. And it was around last October that the lead swapped. Right around September, October, that the Trump got the lead on him, and he just hasn't been able to make up that ground since. And right around that time, it really kind of corresponds with the invasion of Gaza by the Israelis and his support for Israel's genocide in Gaza. And that is kind of what tanked him with his base. And ever since then, Donald Trump has held a consistent lead over Joe Biden. And if you really look, I mean, he wasn't sailing to re-election, but he had a much better chance. If you look last year, I mean, there was a before, last year, there was like a long period where he was completely outranking Trump. And then it kind of, for about 4 to 5 months, it sort of swapped back over and Trump was leading. And then at the time of when the war started in Gaza, Biden was actually ahead. And then that war starts, and then he starts supporting Israel, and the base just completely was not on board with that. And that's part of the reason why Trump has such a big lead in Michigan and that area, because there's a lot of Muslim expats and a lot of Palestinian expats that live there, and it's just bad news for Biden, and he hasn't been able to recover since. And it's really unfortunate because I think he's actually one of the best presidents in my lifetime. He has one of the most progressive records as president in my lifetime. Better than Clinton, better than Obama even, when it comes to a lot of things. I mean, I thought the way that he handled the pandemic was good. His policies there during the pandemic, it cut child poverty in half. He stopped evictions. This has all led to like an incredible economic recovery. Like if you look at the rest of the world, like the United States has kind of led the economic recovery since COVID. It hasn't even been close. If you look at the United States and then you look at like China and like Europe and stuff like that, as far as they've recovered from COVID, like we're doing gangbusters now. Wages are way up. Unemployment is historically low. It actually hit a lower than during the Trump years, during Biden's term. The stock market is way higher than it was during Trump's term, stuff like that. Also, inflation went up too, but inflation is actually slowed to pre-pandemic levels. See, a little bit of inflation is actually good for the economy. What you don't want is inflation to outpace wages. And that's what was going on, and that's why everything seems so damn expensive. Well, now it's back to how it should be. And honestly, if you have a problem with inflation, you should be talking to billionaires and corporations, because those are the motherfuckers that cause inflation. You notice inflation only really happens when normal, ordinary people have money. Anyway, that's a discussion for another time as well. But he was really good with all of this stuff. The infrastructure bill that he passed was excellent. The $1 trillion infrastructure bill, that's going to be paying dividends to the economy for decades to come. And that's something that also both Clinton and Obama failed to get done. He got it done. Another long-term Democratic goal that Biden got done was included inside of the Inflation Reduction Act. And that was enabling Medicare to negotiate down prescription drug prices. That's something that they've been talking about doing since the fucking 90s. And he got that done. Every other country on Earth negotiates with drug companies in order to lower drug prices. We don't do that. And the reason why we didn't do that is because of Republicans. It's so Republicans could funnel taxpayer money to their criminal friends in the pharmaceutical industry. And that's the one reason why we never fucking had that. Why the government, Medicare, didn't negotiate to get drug prices down. And Joe Biden did that. That's going to save people thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars. We live in the only country on earth where some people are like, oh, well, I can either buy food for the week or buy my medicine to keep me from fucking dying. People in this country are making that choice. And that's going to go a long way to fucking turning that shit around. And that's something that, Trump didn't fucking do that, right? Obama didn't do that. Clinton didn't do that. So it's like, no, Biden got that shit done, right? The one thing that he did that earned my vote is putting the kibosh on the war on terror. That's one of the defining arcs of my generation, is the war on terror. I'm like a fucking Generation Xer. And that shit happened like while I was, of age. right when my generation became highly politically active is when 9/11 happened and all that stuff, right? And the fact that Joe Biden put an end to that, I mean, the man earned my respect right there. He earned my vote right fucking there. He pulled the troops out of Afghanistan, even though, the thing is, Donald Trump is the one that set that date, but he didn't do it. He set it far enough into the future to where potentially he could just reverse that if he wanted to. Joe Biden followed through with that. And he ripped the fucking Band-Aid off. Obama didn't do that either. Obama sent more troops to Afghanistan. Joe Biden is the one that got us out of that shit. Got us out of that fucking 20-year quagmire. And yeah, some people died. Yeah, it wasn't the best, but you know what? It had to be done. He deserves to be commended for that. That's a tough decision. That's what an actual leader is supposed to fucking do. And you know, something else that Joe Biden did that he doesn't get a lot of credit for is that he practically eliminated the drone war. See, that's another thing that doesn't hit the news, right? Drone strikes all throughout the Bush and Obama and Trump years have like expanded as we remove troops from the Middle East, as we draw troops down from Afghanistan and from Iraq. Drone strikes all through that region increased. Trump didn't do shit for that either. Trump, like, I think there was this massacre where something like 287 people were killed in a drone strike because of Donald Trump. He like got all the fucking protections taken away, like the small protections that Obama put in. And Obama didn't stop the fucking drone war either. No, he kind of expanded it. It was Joe Biden that put an end to that shit. Joe Biden that withdrew all the troops from fucking Afghanistan. And since there wasn't an active war zone, he put in protections saying that every drone strike has to be approved by the White House. And then he just didn't approve them. And then drone strikes went down. And guess what? Terrorism fucking like suddenly wasn't like a big fucking deal anymore. When we weren't blowing people up over there, suddenly shit starts to calm down. It's commendable that he did that. That's one of the greatest decisions that a president in my lifetime has like done, that he actually had the guts to like stand up to the military industrial complex. That's Joe Biden. All right. So yeah, I thought he was a great fucking president, but that doesn't change the fact that he's old as fucking Methuselah. You know, the man's 81. Okay. And yeah, you shouldn't have someone who's 81 years old be the president. And does that sound ageist? Am I being ageist by saying that? Yeah, maybe. Maybe I am. But you know what? I'm not the only one. You need someone who is strong and healthy and whose mind is clear and who can make rational decisions and function throughout the day without having to fucking turn in. I mean, what was the thing? Like they're saying that he turned in at like 4 p.m. every fucking day, that he had to go home and like take a nap and shit in the afternoon. You know, what if there's a crisis or something, right? Is it ageist to say this? I mean, it's fucking reality. And if you're pissed off that I say that, I'm sorry, but this is reality here. Reality is, you know, we shouldn't have someone who should be retired at that age. You should be retired. You should be enjoying your life. You know, the same with fucking Donald Trump, by the way. And then now that Joe Biden is like dropped out, that makes Donald Trump is now the old man candidate. You know, how old is he? 79? You know, how fucking old is Donald Trump? Let's just take a quick look. Just, I want to be sure here. I don't want to be talking out of my ass. Trump age. He's 78. Okay. So if he gets elected, then by the time he leaves office, he's going to be 82. So he's only 3 years younger than Biden. If Biden's too old, then fucking Trump is too old for sure. And Trump's mind is starting to fucking turn into salami also. Right? I know that any of you that actually bothered to listen to that fucking ridiculous RNC speech that he was at, where he rambled on for like fucking an hour and a half or whatever. The man's fucking brain is turning into spaghetti. It's not good. We need someone, you know, young enough and spry enough and cognizant of what they're doing and able to like handle the pressure. You know, the presidency takes a lot out of people. Look at pictures of Barack Obama before he became president and then pictures after. The man has not aged 8 years. He's aged 20 in the span of 8 years, because it's a long and arduous job where you're up all night dealing with crises and negotiating and making decisions that affect millions of people. Can't be having a fucking 81-year-old man in there who's going to sleep at 4 p.m. in the afternoon. Can't have a fucking 78-year-old man in there who can't, like, you know, remember what day it is. Right? And, like, confuses people and shit like that. Donald Trump is all fucked up. So anyway, so what is going to happen now? Well, the Trump people are shitting their pants over this because they thought that they were going to sail into the presidency here. And they probably were. And now this fucks up their entire campaign. And I've even heard that they're going to try to sue to keep Biden on the ticket, which is like, I don't see how the fuck they have any standing at all. The Republican Party has no standing at what the Democratic Party does. The Democratic Party could do whatever the fuck they want. It's their party. Their elections, the way they select a candidate, there's no state law that dictates anything when it comes to that. And this is not a thing that can go to the Supreme Court, and then the Supreme Court can go, no, you have to have Biden on the ticket. No. They don't have standing at all. So they're going to try to sue, and it's not going to work. But what's going to happen exactly? Well, they're going to have to go to the Democratic convention, and Kamala Harris, even though that Biden endorsed her, that doesn't mean that she automatically gets all of his delegates. She's going to have to go to the convention and compete with them with everybody else. So that means there's going to be a lot of dealing, a lot of schmoozing, a lot of competing, and we'll see what happens. And I think it's a good thing. I think it's great. They're, you know, if they have an open convention where people can come and vote for who they want, whether it's Kamala Harris, whether it's fucking Gavin Newsom, whether it's, I don't even know who else is going to run. Whoever it is, they should have to come and they should have to compete and have a convention, because this is what democracy is all about. But I'll tell you, whoever they select, I'm going to vote for. I don't give a shit at this point. I don't care. They could put Joe Biden's cold, lifeless corpse up there to vote. Joe Biden could die tomorrow of COVID or whatever, and they could take his fucking, like, pasty, lifeless, fucking zombified skeleton corpse and run it for office, and I will vote for it. Okay? They could take a scarecrow and put, like, a balloon for a head and then, like, draw a fucking happy face on it with a marker, and I'll vote for that too. Because I don't think I'm ever gonna vote for a Republican ever in my life, ever. I mean, I don't think I ever actually have, and I'm not gonna break that record now. Like, they would literally, like, the Democratic, like, candidate would literally have to murder someone on TV. They would literally have to be a fucking child molester before I wouldn't vote for them. You know, they'd have to be a white supremacist or something like that before I wouldn't vote for them. And in that case, it's like, I still wouldn't vote for Donald Trump. Right? Never. So that's what's going on now. And, you know, I think it's ultimately good. I mean, honestly, I think people, you know, my last little thing I'm going to end with, I think people have done Biden dirty. I think Biden was actually a pretty good, damn good president. And if he was just like 4 or 5 years younger, I think he may have defeated Trump again. Ultimately, I think he deserves to spend the rest of his life in comfort, having served his country for, how long has he been a senator now? At least since the 80s. So 50, 60 years of service to this country. That's excellent. And leaving on a high note. I think that's what it is. I think he can look back at his accomplishments in 4 years. He accomplished more in 4 years than Clinton or Obama did in 8. I mean, almost. His accomplishments are comparable, if not greater. And I think he should go down as a pretty damn good president. Here's hoping that whoever replaces him on the ticket wins. Right? I think ultimately this will be good for democracy. Get out there and vote this November. Maybe now, maybe they'll put somebody up you feel better voting about. Anyway, everybody out there, stay cool, stay safe, and I will talk to you all later. Adios.
Hello folks, if you like what I do and you want to support the channel, please consider buying something from my Etsy shop, supporting me on Patreon, liking and subscribing, and checking me out across my social media links listed below. Thank you all so much, and see you next time.